you guys. Good morning, everyone. All right, my name's Karl. For those of you who don't know me, most of you see me running around here or out on job sites, and sometimes I like to blend in and throw on a yellow vest and jump right in there with you. So, first off, I want to put a huge shout out to all the guys who are either flying back, driving back, or flying or driving from Colorado. So we had a customer who had a basically short in a secondary off of a transformer out in Colorado. They had a plant that was down and came to us and said, hey, you got to help us. What can you do? And for a lot of us here, that's what we do. We love jumping in, taking on projects like that. And we sent 14 people to that site. We were scrambling, finding material, coming up with a plan of what we were going to do. Those guys, most of them drove through the night. We sent material out there and they ripped all the old conduit and wire out and had light towers there. You know, slept for 3 hours the first night, worked through the next day. Long story short, plant's back up and running, customers happy and all get out, and all those guys just are, living a high, right? So we sent an email out to, 20 people. There was like 10 of them that responded right away. Hey, yep, we'll go. Came, bags packed, and away they went. So that's a lot of our story, is doing things like that and taking care of our customers. So Thad told me I had to write or come up and talk for an hour, and I'm like, that's not me. I don't get in front of people and talk, and I'm a worker. I like to be out in front of the customer, so we put a few things together. So as we close out this decade, prepare for the next one. It's humbling to look back at all we have done together. Most of you are 3 years or less new to this company, so there's not a lot of you that know our story and where we come from, and for us, that's really important. For the ones that have been here longer, you know this story is about long hours, hard work, determination, and belief and trust. So trust in myself, trust in each other, trust in our customers, and trust in our vendors, and then our customers trust back in us to perform work for them. I'm a firm believer in that you need to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, who will? It's also important to have someone in your corner to remind you to get back up and keep moving forward when you've been knocked down, and give you the reassurance that you can do whatever is in front of you. If we don't trust each other, we will go no place together. We have to be in a spot where we believe in our team and where you're in this together and we do the right things for each other. Once we have a relationship of trust in each other, no one questions someone's intentions or their actions. You believe in them, and now you both can be set up for success. We have built our company carefully off of a few good customers into some great ones, and they have trusted us to fulfill their commitments to us with projects, which led to payments and more contracts. We went out on a limb with many of them, with new people, new contacts, and we've turned it into this company that it is today. So 2019 for us was a year of change, and for those of you who have been on this team, you know that we are a progressive growing company and we change a lot. We don't always do change right, but the best part about our company is we change fast. When we know we made a mistake, we can make that change again and we can get better. So one of our big changes that we made this year as we were trying to grow was how we met Pam and Pat with P2. And that was another story of, it was just a great story. We had an issue on a job site, and Shane got a phone call, and he had to talk through with Pat on the issue, and the issue turned into an opportunity of meeting Pat and Pam, and we hired them to be our tractor integrators. So, Pam, you come on stage and you say a few things.
Good morning and welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Karl. Yeah, I am thrilled to be here for a number of reasons, but most importantly because in my role, I think the formal name of what I do is called organizational development. And when you're a company that's growing as fast and adding people and projects and taking on new things, there's a big stretch involved, and everybody's stretching. And so that's an exciting place to be. This company is growing, and when you grow that fast, somehow you got to organize that development, and that's the privilege that I get to do. I've been doing this for about 20 years. You'll hear a little bit more from me. I've got a number of different courses that we're talking about, but when you grow that fast, the biggest thing that you need to maintain is teamwork. And when you hear Karl and you see him talk about the history, as Dad said, it's easy to be a team when you're 3 people, 5 people, even 15 or 20. But the bigger you get, maintaining that teamwork is important. And to me, I'm just thrilled because I see an event like this as really investing in the team and taking the time. Thank you, Thad. You've done an amazing job organizing this as the orchestrator, and a number of people on the team getting this ready. And that to me is showing that we care about you. And I'll just give you a little metaphor that many companies, at least in my position, have started to run their businesses by the numbers. And they kind of forget the people. And this is really a people-oriented company, and I'm thrilled to be a part of the team. Because you don't play basketball by watching the scoreboard. You are a winning team, and you become a better team by passing the ball. And that teamwork takes trust, and it takes time to build trust. This is time for you to build trust and build relationships. So I'm going to challenge you in a number of the courses I'm teaching, but just think about it that as much as the formal classes are teaching you, there's going to be so much gained by the informal and getting to know people. So get to know your teammates so that we can really continue to be a winning team. Thanks for everything.
All right, thanks, Pam. So a lot of you have had some one-on-one sessions with Pam or have seen her around the office and wondered what she was doing and, oh, she's a consultant or what is she doing here? But Pam in Pat's role for us is really just to help us think differently, right? Because many of us that are here, we're electricians, right? Or we're engineers, we're programmers, we're operators. And when we get into a challenge or we face something, our brain goes right back to what we know, right? Which is working in the field or doing work and not thinking about communication and tools and how to run a business. So Pam and Pat are here to help us kind of challenge ourselves and learn how to build our team better, right? We've been building a team since we started back in 2005 is when I started in this. And Shane, he started in 97, 8, right? Working out of high school, and Brandon started in 2003. So it was easy for us to communicate and know what each other's doing because we work together all the time. You know, we could almost do things without asking each other. It's from pulling wire to putting in panels, whatever that was, right? It was a small group, it was really easy. But as we grow and expand, it's really hard to get our communication out effectively to everybody. And we stumble on that a little bit. So a lot of what they're here to do is to help us kind of build our team and know how to communicate messages from the office to foreman to the field, just so everybody's on the same page. So it's been a lot of fun working with her and growing and learning how to do some of those things better. And part of what we're going to do today is go through, last year we did that SWOT analysis, right? We had all these things, which was strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, right? And we did, I think it was the last day of the session, I don't remember when we did it. But we put all these things up on the board and had all the things that we thought we were good at and things that we needed to work on. And we were reviewing that list this year, and we've knocked a lot of those things off, right? A lot of those things that we had as weaknesses we're turning into strengths. And a lot of those strengths, we really took opportunity to improve them even better and really maximize on them. So when we focus on things, we can get them done, right? We work on them together, and we're all going in the same direction and not going here, there, everywhere. That was always a problem as we've been growing over the years, right? Is having common direction in where we're going. And if we don't have a common direction, we're going to go far, but all separately. So in order to know where we're going in the next 10 years, I thought it was, and that's kind of how this started with Thad and Pam. They said, oh, we need your speech, and we ended up in the training room, and I think we started, it was about, okay, well, where have we been? So in order for us to know where we're going, we got to know where we've been, and I know where we've been, and Shane knows where we've been, and Brandon knows, and Derek, and Richard, and some of the guys that have been here for 8+ years. But a lot of you don't know. You just think, oh, they've always been this company, right? Or they've always been, successful. But it's not really true. So I ended up going up to the whiteboard, and I just started drawing customers on the board and a few names, and that led to like a half-hour session of a whiteboard full of stuff. And they're like, okay, that's good. We'll go with that. I'm like, oh, easy. All right, I can do that. So I'm kind of going to recreate that a little bit today. Most of it was from scratch, so we're going to kind of do the same thing and just kind of run us through the customers we started with back in 2005 and the people that we had, and then how we built off of each one of those customers. And we're kind of going to have that same philosophy going forward. We took 4 good customers, and we've turned that into 200 good customers, right? And we've turned that into 200 people from 3 people. So that's it. I think we should do some of those. We're going to do some of those pictures. Bring them up. We found some good pictures. So I'm gonna have to erase a lot today. I was almost gonna make Brandon come up and write because he's got really good handwriting. And as everybody knows Brandon, he writes on boards, cardboard, whiteboard, paper's not for him. Okay, so there's Brandon, if you can believe it or not. That's in like era 2005. He looks a lot like his brother, Matt, who's sitting here somewhere. So Brandon likes to joke to Matt that, well, look at me now, this is what you got to look forward to, 10 years. So that's working where we started, where Shane and Brandon and I, so back 2005, our company had maybe 7, 8 people, which would have been my dad, Jurgen, my mom, Shar, myself, Shane, Brandon, and we had 2, 3 other electricians that worked here. And we worked at some industrial locations, but a lot of our work was agriculture, residential, commercial. We've got some old books over there that we're going to leave out for you guys to look forward. And every day we had basically our daily log. It was like a paper version of Procore. Guys came back to the shop, they had to write in there where they were and what they got done. So we went back and found Shane's first day of work on there. We found Brandon's first day of work on there, 97, 2008, or 2003. Found my name in there, and then we found these customers, and it was kind of fun to watch where these customers came about. So there's, 2011, there's one of our first building additions that we did at the shop.
You can't see that anymore. That changed already.
That's gone. That's been changed. That was Land O'Lakes Pun Island, which is one of our customers we had back then. So we'll put that up on the board. LOL, Land O'Lakes. Ardent, which is Lake City, who is actually one of the customers that we just went out to Colorado to help, was Ardent Mills. So 17 years later, we're still serving those people in kind of the same capacity we started in Lake City. When we started in Lake City at Ardent Mills, it was actually called Pillsbury. Just switched to Cargill. It's a flour mill in Lake City. And we found that in the book. They called on May 2nd, 2000, is it 1 or 3? 03. 01. May 2nd, 2001, they called the office and it had wrote on there, Cargill Lake City, $46 an hour. And then on May 3rd, we went and changed to VFD for him. And we built that relationship over the years into what it is today. So back then it was called Cargill, and then Cargill made a joint venture and that made it to Horizon Milling, and we found that sign laying here because Mitch or somebody took it off the building, so we thought that was appropriate to build that up. As we build out this board, you'll see a lot of that was built off of them. So, Ardent Mills, Lake City, started in 02. It was myself, Shane, Brandon. Well, you would have been working here at that time, but not Brandon, not myself. So you, and we had Jason Burrow and a few other guys. And that account was just everyday maintenance. You know, we did a few little projects here and there. And the first real project Shane, Brandon, and I did there was with an automation project in the bulk plant. Right? Automation, maybe. So, Ardent Mills, Lake City. This is where this one account started. And there we met Steve Mattson. I don't know if you're going to be able to see any of those names up there. So another customer that we had was Egg Partners. Hey, Ardent, Lake City, Land O'Lakes. You'll be in the way? Okay, so those are pretty much our 4 main accounts, and we had a Henkel, which some of these you'll still see. Henkel and HHT, which HHT started as Heat and Glow fireplaces. Now it's Hearth and Home Technologies. You still work there today. So that 2005 range, these were pretty much 6 main customers that we had. We didn't do a lot of work at DFA or Land O'Lakes. They were always kind of small projects, but we would be at Hearth and Home every day. We were at Henkel all the time, and we were starting to really get into Ardent Mills, Lake City. So from 2005 is when I started working in the company, and I actually started working for Shane, and I was his apprentice. And we had a few other electricians here that I worked for as well, but worked with Shane and worked at all sorts of different facilities. Did a lot of residential work, I did some commercial work, and then we started down at Ardent, and Brandon, Shane, and I all did a project there together. I also did a lot of work at Henkel Companies in Cannon Falls, which Matt Harris works at a lot now. It's a great customer of ours. So we all just small service work, no big projects. There was 4 or 5 of us in the company, and we just always kept trying to get a little bit more, right? We weren't satisfied just doing their small service work. They'd always bring in a different contractor to do their big projects, And we all kind of enjoyed doing the big projects, so it was, all right, we got to be able to grow and do a little bit more. So Art, I met a guy named Steve Mattson and started to build a relationship with Steve. And there we started doing, we did this automation project in their bulk plant, which is how we actually met Josh Irish. You remember that project, Josh? Where are you? You remember that project? Hiding.
Yep.
So we met Josh Irish, Jason Grayek, and we also ended up meeting this team from Eaton Engineering Services. So doing this work, this would have been in 2006, roughly. Doing some projects at Ardent, and I get approached by Jason. We did a project with IEE, who Josh also worked with. And he said, hey, would you like to look at some work for us down in Winona? We got a project down there, and we were getting along with him at Ardent Mills, doing some projects for him, and everything was going good. And I said, yeah, we'll go down and look at that work. So we go down to Winona, and we look at a work at ADM. And this would have been in 2009. 2008, 9. So we go down to ADM, we bid the work at ADM, and we end up getting the project. So added a new customer to that list. So ADM starts right here. And that relationship basically started because of Ardent, came through Jason Grayek, which led us to ADM. So from that ADM relationship, we were out in Winona. That was our first project. And I met a guy named Mike Stinson. Mike Stinson said, hey, we got 4 more projects out in western Minnesota. Would you like to come out there and look at those projects? And of course, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, we'll go look at those. And it was doing Hasmon. Didn't know what Hasmon was, I'd never really done it before. So we went out there to look at these projects in Marshall, Sanborn, Holland, and Bern, Minnesota. That's where these projects were. And that was also with IEE, so we went out and looked at those projects, we got those projects, and that led us into meeting a guy named Mark Hedin. Mark Hedin was also with ADM. So we got Winona, I'm not gonna write the rest of them. So 4 projects in western Minnesota, we get those done. They like their work, they like what we do on the Winona project was going well, and we meet Mark Hedin. And he said, hey, I got a project up in St. Cloud. Would you guys be interested in looking at that project? And me, of course, always. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, we'll look at that. And that project was a new shuttle loader. Now, we had been working for Egg Partners doing grain elevator work, and we had done some grain bins, you know, a few small things for them here and there, but nothing of this scale. So we put the proposal together. We go down and meet with Mark Hedin. And I'm talking with him, and I'm kind of nervous because at that time I was maybe 23, 22. You know, Mark's 45. He's regional director of whatever for ADM, and go down there with my proposal, and we're going through it. And he's like, "Yeah, you know what? I like it. You know what you're talking about. It's a little more money than we ever spent before, but let's get to work." And he shakes my hand, and there we go. We got a $1.4 million contract, and prior to that, we'd probably only done $250,000 projects. So I'm a little nervous, going, holy shit, what did I get myself into? But we'll figure it out, because that's always kind of been our attitude. As we were going through that, it was we're going to figure it out. So Mark Hedin, he brings us to St. Cloud. Now, St. Cloud is where I meet Rich Kuchenmeister.
He's on the phone.
Rich is on the phone. All right. Hi, Rich. So I drive myself up to St. Cloud. We're going to a project meeting, and yeah, there's a picture from St. Cloud right there. So I had this old trailer, and myself, and I can't remember who, Matt Pepin, and a few other guys that don't work here anymore, but we get up to St. Cloud. I remember pulling onto that site and just kind of having that pucker up factor, going, holy crap, what did I get myself into? I mean, this was a big project, right? It was, I think we had 7 bins, it had a rail loadout, it was a big job for us. That's the trailer I lived in for a year and a half. Worked during the day out on the tools with the guys, and then I'd be in the trailer at night working on other bids, because now that we're starting to meet all these people, they start sending us more stuff to work on, so it just keeps kind of spiraling. So we meet Rich, we do St. Cloud, and we're working on putting together design, because it was a design build contract. It was electrical design was on us, we had to design all our own stuff, and IE was doing the automation. And I'd have nights where I'd sit in the hotel and I'd get back and I'd be trying to lay all this out because we really didn't have anything done ahead of time. It was always kind of that last minute a little bit, trying to figure out how to design a 4,000 amp service or 3,000 amp services and all these MCCs. And I had a few moments in the hotel room where just like on site, I'd go, what in the heck did I get myself into, right? And you'd just be like, man, how am I ever going to get this done? And you just, I don't know, just kind of, you didn't have an option. Nobody else was going to come in and save us. We didn't have 160 people that were going to come to our rescue, right? At that time, there was maybe 10 of us by then, 8, 9. I mean, we didn't have a lot of guys, so it was you had to figure it out. And had people in my corner like Shane and Brandon, and just to kind of back you up and help get it done. We ended up getting that project done. It was, you know, one of the least amount of hours. We built the shuttle loader in. The customer was happy. You know, everybody was happy, and that led us to our next project. So from St. Cloud, we met a contractor called J&D. So we met J&D Construction. And J&D Construction had another project going at Randolph. So Interstate Mills in Randolph. So J&D brought us and introduced us to Interstate Mills. Interstate Mills in Randolph. Now, Interstate Mills was a guy by the name of Jim Dell. He's probably our main contact there. So J&D brought us to Interstate Mills. We were working for Interstate Mills. We did another shuttle loader. At this time, somewhere right in here is where we decided that we were going to start doing automation. IAE kind of folded up. They got rid of that company, and ADM came to us and said, we'd like you guys to take over automation at a few facilities. So like usual, we said, yeah, we can do that, no problem. Which that probably started, I gotta back up a little bit. I got that relationship. So Ag Partners was Goodhue at the time. They have maybe Goodhue, Lake City, Belchester, how many locations? Wanamingo. We probably worked at their Goodhue location. So we worked at the G, we worked at W, and BC. And we were doing some grain bin work for him. And I started a relationship there with a guy by the name of Greg Schwanbeck. And working for Greg, he was, I mean, just a great guy. You know, we did a little bit of work for him, but they'd send stuff out to bid, and we'd always do their service work, but project work wouldn't always just get handed to us. And to me, it was like, we gotta change this. So I would start stopping every couple of weeks and just talking to him and getting to know him. And you know, that really led into a great relationship over 10 years of we didn't really have to competitively bid work. We just came in, did budgets, did design, and he gave us work. You know, it was all about the relationship that we had with him and why we got the work. So we were working for Greg, and a lot of why he liked me was because of some of the stuff we were learning at Arden Mills, and we were starting to learn material handling and you know, everything else that it was involved in what he needed. So we knew exactly what he needed. We were experts at it, right? We didn't just do pipe and wire. We knew the equipment, we knew legs, you know, they loved us. So then they had a windstorm in Lake City, and it blew down the Lake City elevator. And we had never done any work in Lake City up to this point, but I had a really good relationship with Greg. So I went and talked to Greg and said, you know, hey, we'd really like to do that project in Lake City. And he's like, yeah, I know you guys would, but you know, they got somebody else that they use, and you're gonna have to talk to Jim Mack and make sure he's okay with it. So that's where I met Jim. Went down, talked to Jim. Again, this time it would have been 2008, so I was even younger, so I was maybe 21 at that time. And sat in his office and explained to him what we did and things we had done, and you know, put a proposal together on the project, and they ended up giving us the work. Well, we sold them an automated facility. We had never done automation before, but you know, we'll figure it out. So we brought in a guy over here. So DFA, we met a guy by the name of Rob Tullis, and we met Vern Dost. So Rob's got a pretty good story too. Rob started, and we still know him today. If anybody that's worked for Plainview Milk, if you worked at Kemp's, that's Rob Tullis. Same Rob Tullis we met back in 2005 when we were doing a shred project for him, and that was one of my first projects that I did that was an automated facility in the food processing industry, and that was probably 2005. So we met Rob. Rob started as a forklift driver in the warehouse, put himself through school, ended up becoming a maintenance manager, and always was interested in computers and automation and controls. So we went to school down in Winona for automation, or I don't remember what they called that program. Derek, you remember what that was? Where are you? No.
Mechatronics.
Mechatronics? Mechatronics. So something similar to that. So a mechanical slash automation and PLC program. And Rob was always a very mechanically inclined guy, which made it perfect for controls because half of that is knowing how the equipment's supposed to work, right? Not just how to program it. So me and Rob, we had a great relationship with Rob, and Rob left. And Rob, was it about at that time? I think it was before Lake City, Shane? 2009, I think. Rob goes to Kemp's. Now, we had been doing projects for Rob at DFA, and he was the maintenance manager. So he worked his way up from driving a forklift in the warehouse to working in maintenance to then being the maintenance manager and doing all their automation work. Rob went to Kemp's. Rob, I don't know, we just really got along with him. You know, it was more than a work relationship. He was a good friend. We enjoyed working with him. And we were doing other automation work, and Shane and Brandon and I always really had an interest in it. So he was teaching us, and we were learning from him, and we got this project to do an automated facility, and I said, yep, we can do that. So now I needed somebody to do it for us. So we went to Rob and said, hey, can you help us with this? And he said, of course, absolutely, we'll help with that. So we go to Lake City, and we automate that facility and build Lake City. AGP Lake City. And Rob helped us with that project. That's kind of how our automation started. From that project, we went to Red Wing Grain. And these all start tying together here pretty soon. Red Wing Grain was Jim Larson. Oh, mess that up. Okay, Red Wing Grain is a 50% joint venture between Cargill.
Your laptop's going to die? I don't want to lose my go-to-meeting people.
Chargers in my backpack. Tiff can grab it from the office. Yep. So we go to Red Wing Grain. Red Wing Grain is a 50% joint venture between Cargill, who Ardent, they're Cargill Foods affiliate, so this is a Cargill plant. So that helped tie us to Red Wing Grain here, because 50% joint venture of Cargill and Ag Partners. So because of my relationships with Greg and Ag Partners and the work we were doing for them, and we had just automated this facility and rewired the facility in Lake City, and we had been doing work for these guys now for 3 years, I stopped at Red Wing Grain, Jim Larson, sat down, talked to him, and they had a project they were doing at their bunker, putting in a new grain bin at their bunker. So we had to bid that against a couple other people, but that's how our relationship at Red Wing Grain started, was had the opportunity to work for him because of what we had done for Ag Partners, because of what we were doing for Cargill. Cargill is very particular about who gets to work for him. You got to go through all these pre-quals, but we were already done with that because we had been working for Arden. So that led us to work for Red Wing Grain, and we did a bin for them about, that was 2011, I think, right in there, 2010, 2011, about the same time that the St. Cloud project was going on. So we just kind of kept leveraging our knowledge in the grain industry and the people that we had met and been working for to start building these projects. So these are kind of in that same time frame. Red Wing Grain, St. Cloud, and at the same time we did Red Wing Grain, this is where I meet Bernie with VAA. Bernie Jansen. I was starting to get a little more confident in myself at this time. I had, had my master's license, would have had a master's in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and then my Minnesota journeyman's, and I'd get these plan sets from engineers, and I'd be like, well, that's stupid, why are they doing it like that? And that's why I called VAA to tell them, hey, your plans suck, we need to change this is not how we're going to build it. So I was talking with Bernie on those plans, and kept calling back and forth over the next few weeks, and he said, hey, you seem to know the industry and what you're talking about. We got another project at All-American Co-op in Stewart, Elgin. So that was All-American Co-op. He said, would you like to bid on that work? I said, yeah, absolutely. So we get added to the bid list for that project, and we ended up bidding that to Seek, McCormick, and Lodemers, I think. And this is how we meet Seek right here. So Seek gets this project, and we met Chuck Ricketts and Ryan Ricketts, and Brandon did a lot on that project, and we also did that as an automated facility, and that's, again, we used Rob for that. And now we meet Seek. So we did well on that project, and that relationship, as you know, is still working with AEC. So we went on to do a fertilizer plant for them. What else have we done for those guys? Derek, you've done a lot of work for them. But did another bin addition in Elgin. So over the years, we've kept that relationship going. Now at Red Wing Grain, when we bid this one, we bid this to a company called McCormick Construction. We bid it to Seek and Lodemeyer's. So at McCormick, I met a guy by the name of Dave Utzinger. And Jim Mann, and there's a few others. So when we bid that job, you're working with the other contractors, bidding on it and talking to them, getting to know it, and they also kind of said the same thing. Hey, you guys really seem to know this industry, you know what you're talking about. We got another job bidding, would you like to bid on it? Of course, absolutely. So this McCormick relationship then led in, which was because of Red Wing Grain, because we bid on that, we met these guys, met Dave Utzinger, and that turned into Landmark and Fall River. So we bid a shuttle loader for him in Fall River, Wisconsin. It was similar to the one we had just done in St. Cloud, which really helped, right? Oh, have you ever done one of these before? Oh yeah, we've done these before, just barely finishing one, but we've done one before. Gotta have confidence in yourself, right? Yeah, pretty close to it. Roughly, Randolph was maybe done. So now we got 2 under our belt. We're feeling pretty good, right? Still faking it, but so we go out to Fall River and we do a shuttle loader for them out there. And this relationship actually has went a long ways. We really get along with these guys. So the Fall River project for us, then that led to and then that led to Forsman Farms, and here's one in Iowa, Hinton, Iowa. And our most recent one for them is Bay State Milling in Tolleson, Arizona. Which all ties back to Cargill, right? So working at Cargill in Lake City leads to Red Wing Grain, which leads to meeting McCormick, which leads to Fall River, to Fromm, to Forsman, now down to Bay State. Now the funny thing about this, how we got the Bay State job, because Bay State over the last 12 years have never used anybody but Interstates. Interstates is the only company that they use. But this same guy over here, Steve Matson, now no longer works for Interstate. Steve Matson works for Bay State Milling. So that tie came down here and helped us get this job. And we also met a guy by the name of Drew Teagland, who now works for Bay State Milling as director of projects, and he also used to work for Arden Mills. So we knew both those people, leveraged that relationship here. We got to bid on it because of McCormick, and we ended up getting the work because of those two, right? Their board wanted Interstates to do it, McCormick wanted us to do it, but because I knew those guys, reached out to them, talked with them, we ended up getting that work. So the Seek relationship, All-American Co-op, we meet Seek, okay? We take Seek, and the next project they have, Brandon, was what? Hope, Crystal Valley, and Hope.
This is the year of the 2 shuttle loaders.
Yeah, we'd been building 1 shuttle loader a year, so we thought, why not? We can build 2, right? Interesting year. It's about 2014, so we take Seek, and that turns into Crystal Valley Co-op in Hope, Minnesota. And then that leads us to Appleton, another shuttle loader, which then this one spins off and goes to Trimont, Crystal Valley Co-op in Trimont, and then Madelia. Madelia, yeah. Not all projects are your best projects, right? And the funny thing is this Bernie Jansen. So Bernie and I have a great relationship, and Bernie has helped us immensely over the last 9 years of just introducing me to people. So I was going to go to my first, there's a big trade show called Jeeps. Many of you have heard of us talk about it. We go to a trade show called Jeeps. So when I was doing St. Cloud, somewhere in between St. Cloud and Randolph, I'm like, yeah, we should do this trade show. Everybody in the industry goes to it. That's how I'm going to meet some people, is go to it. So Go down to Jeeps, it was Jeff Olson and I, and we knew nobody, and I'm sitting there in the booth and feeling pretty small at that time, you know, and Bernie comes over to talk to me, and he's from Minnesota, and he's like, hey, I'm going out to eat with some guys tonight, would you like to come with? Absolutely, you know, and Bernie brings you with, and that's really how it helped firm up this relationship with McCormick, because he took the McCormick guys out. So it was all the McCormick guys were at that, and Bernie just, you know, he's a very personable guy for anybody that's ever met him before. He's kind of got a funny sense of humor. But Bernie's really tied us into this industry. So it was from that relationship to the relationships with Keene to, I mean, Bernie just, he has helped us along the way get to where we're going. And he's tied into all these projects somehow. So he did the engineering for All American Co-op. They were involved in Hope. They're involved in Appleton. He's tied in a lot of different ways, which the next project that he led us into that we're working on right now is Harrison Poultry. So Bernie calls me and says, hey, I got a project down in Arizona. Would you be interested in working on that? Or no, not Arizona, Georgia. Like usual, I say, sure, yeah, that sounds fun. So Bernie introduces me to Nick Strange, and we work on the project, and actually McCormick was bidding on it, and Hoganson was bidding on it, and I think maybe SMA. And we ended up not being the low bid on that project, which makes sense, right? It's in Georgia, we're from Minnesota, but they just liked, we went down and met with them, they liked what we had to offer, our knowledge of the industry really meant a lot to them, how we've been designing our gear, how we do e-stop circuits, they really liked us and ended up giving us the job. So that job there again ties back to Bernie, which he ties to a lot of our projects. Okay, so we got a little bit of the automation side. Now I can come back to this one, because this is really where ADM kind of takes off. So they wanted us to do automation for them. We've been doing some automation work, but it was always kind of a third party. So we decided to bring in some of our own people to work on automation. And this is where the whole group that's up in Egan now kind of started from, was some of these small projects. And Ethan, you've probably been here the longest. You've probably seen more than anything. And then after Ethan, Dylan came not too long after, right? So the three of us, not having a ton of experience, we've learned a lot together, right? We've had a lot of oh shit moments, and I've talked Dylan off the ledge numerous times. Numerous times. We've had a lot of fun, you know? It was the oh shit moments in the middle of the night, and I'm like, I've been here before, it's fine, we'll get it. At the time, I probably had no idea how we were gonna get there, but just had the confidence and knowing that you were gonna get there really goes a long way. And for me, I think a lot, even for maybe Brandon and Shane, at least for me and Brandon, where that came from was in Winona. I mean, ADM Winona was we went in, we gutted an entire electrical room, we gutted all the controls out of it, and then had to put it all back together and make it run. And at the end of it, and Derek was down there, I think too, you had a lot to do with that project. We ended up rewiring it probably twice because they had all sorts of code issues down in the basement that you didn't find out until after you were into it. But that one for us was a big confidence builder on, we can rip an entire elevator apart, have wires hanging everywhere, and at the end of the day, we made that place run, right? And ADM was happier than all get out with us, and they bring us on to the next project. So Winona leads to St. Cloud. St. Cloud goes very well. And I think who we met, that was still a Mark Hadeen relationship. So Mark Hadeen did St. Cloud, and then ADM was silent for about a year. And then that led to Glencoe. So we had did a feed mill for him in Glencoe. Now at this time we had been doing shuttle loaders. Feed mills, completely different. Night and day different. But we thought material handling, ADM liked us. They said, hey, you want to look at a feed mill? Absolutely, right? We can do that. Don't know what any of the stuff is. I'd never seen a pellet mill before, conditioner, all that equipment was new, but we'll figure it out, which we did. So we did Glencoe. Glencoe, we met SMA, which is a millwright company who built it, and then we met Scott Bergstresser. So we did that project in Glencoe. Glencoe went well. ADM was happy. 3/4 of the way through Glencoe, they say, hey, we got another facility down in Illinois. Would you like to look at that? Yep, me, absolutely. Sure, let's go do it. In the meantime, Shane and Brandon are usually going, what the fuck are you doing? Like, Jesus. So from there, we went to Effingham. Okay, Effingham is where we met Younglove. we gotta back up. Somewhere up here, see here. Ryan Potts, he's another kind of player that has a lot of runtime for us. So we're in Effingham, big feed mill, concrete slip-form feed mill. It was a big project for us. We met Young Love, we met Goldie. They say, hey, we got another project in Quincy, Illinois. Can you look at that one? And we say, of course, yep, we'll go do that, no problem. Oh, we got Quincy, this is another Young Love project. And I think all the people we met there, there was a ton of people from Young Love, some new AEM people. And right about at the same time, we had got a call from Brian Jacobs, the guy who owns a company called Jake's Electric. And it was somewhere in the Effingham window, somewhere right in here. And he said, hey, I've been working with ADM on this project in Illinois, and it's way too big for us, though. We're never going to take it on, and I recommended that you guys bid on it. Well, this is Mendota. And he says, get a hold of Jeremy Dose or Ryan Potts, and they'll fill you in on it. And I knew Ryan, so I called Ryan, and he said, yeah, we're taking bids on this project. It's a big flour mill, and we had heard about it before from a few other people. And they start sending this information, and we start flipping through it, and we're like, holy shit. This is a big project, right? And I'm starting to have the same feeling like when I was back here in St. Cloud, going, Bruce, this is big. But we broke it down, and I came to the realization, I don't know if anybody else did, but that it was the same thing we've been doing. It was just bigger, more at one time. We can do this, It's 3 flour mills inside of one building. Okay, we'll just break it down. It's 3 mills, no big deal. It's 5 bulk loadout systems, just 5 systems. So we ended up bidding on Mendota, and we ended up getting it. Yeah, that's kind of we'll go right there. Mendota. Now, Mendota was a feat for our company, okay? The project's done. This was the largest greenfield flour mill ever constructed in the United States. There was 15,000 horsepower in that plant. There was 3,500 devices. I mean, it was a big freaking project. We did the primary 50 or 35 kV distribution system. We did all the engineering design on that, all the drawings, commissioning, and we got it done, all right? So, round of applause for everybody that was involved in that project. Holy shit. So on that job there was a lot of the same feeling here going, what did I do, what did I get myself into? But by this time, we've got a pretty good team around us, and there's a lot of people that are saying, hey, you can do this. No worries, we got this, right? And we did it, and it was, this whole thing is all about relationships and people and how we leverage one relationship to build to the next, right? And we look back at all these, and if we've built all of this off of 4 customers, in the last 10 years, imagine what we can do in the next 10. If we have that same mindset of believing in ourselves and looking out for each other, helping each other, and our get shit done attitude, right? That's why we get a lot of this work done, because we may not know how to schedule it right, we may not know how to design it all right, but we all kind of get our heads around it and just dive in and go for it and help each other out.
Do the medium voltage track.
Okay, yeah.
That's good.
And a reason we've got a lot of these work, so as we're doing stuff, we haven't always done medium voltage, we hadn't always done fiber optics. When we started, we had 4 vans, three vans and a bucket truck, and we were in that one tiny little building over there. Is there a picture of it?
Yeah.
So this is where this Eaton relationship comes in right here. So we're down at Cargill, right there. There's the fleet in 2008. We got pickup on the end, 1, 2. The vans were named by the letter of the salesman who sold them to you. So there's P1 for Perry Weeks, P1, P2, P3, and then T1. And then Bucky on the end there. So, yeah. And as we were looking for some old stuff, this is kind of funny. So, some old toolboxes and a few old things. We didn't buy a lot of stuff. My old man was very frugal. You built stuff, you did things yourself. You shingle your own roof, you do all that stuff. And so homemade wire stands, everything was built, milk crates got used a lot for things. We kind of laugh, our tool crib used to be a shelf. So on that side of the shop over where the hoist is, there was 2 shelves that had our tools on them. And it wasn't plural anything, it was like, who's got the rope? Who's got the Allens? Who's got the labeler, right? We didn't have a lot of multiples of anything, so we shared a lot. We were pretty resourceful to make it work. So we're doing some work in Lake City, and this company comes in, Jeremiah Bowington from Eaton Engineering Services, and they're going to replace a transformer. 15 kV transformer, no, 4160 transformer out on the front of the building. And I think Steve would have came to me and said, hey, these guys are doing a turnkey project for us, you need to reach out to them. And I call him and say, you know, I introduce myself, and he's like, all right, we got this project changing the transformer, can you do the electrical? Absolutely. Okay, it's 4160, and I go, ooh, shit, I didn't do that out loud, but I'm like, shit, never done that before. We can figure it out. That's the DFA one. Keep going. It's a green transformer.
I saw it.
Did you see it?
I saw what I was uploading.
So, let's see how to do this. Oh, well, the other way. We don't got enough room for that one. So our 15 kV work starts in 2009. It was close, right there. Right there, that transformer. We got to change that out. Looks pretty easy, right? We can do that. So I'm on the internet. This was early internet days, at least for us, and figuring out what we need for equipment, what we need for grounds, and a tick tracer. At the time, had no idea what a tick tracer was. We tell them we can do it. We give them a price, and you know I was pretty nervous about this one because we'd never done it before. We had to line up the crane, had to take all the measurements, make sure everything was going to fit. And lucky for us, it was a 5 kV, so there's no actual prep to the cable, and we were able to just unhook the cables and set the new transformer, reset the cables, and away we went. So, yay for us, we got it done. So that was our introduction into medium voltage work, right? Right there. Arden Mills, Lake City, Eaton. So that was 2009, probably, and then DFA. Yeah, that's the next one. So DFA has an issue on the roof. And 15 kV gear. And in the past, we'd always told them, now we don't touch medium voltage, you're gonna have to get somebody else for that. So they had an issue on the roof where a fuse blew on the roof, and we got sent down there to troubleshoot it, and we're just kind of getting our feet wet and figuring out what's going on down there. Flip a few slides. Remember that picture with the overhead lines? So we go down there, that's one of their transformer banks. So they basically got 3 single-phase tubs on the roof inside those little enclosures, and then they run the high voltage up to them, and they make their 480 and they distribute from there. So we get on there, we get the problem fixed, and then it happens again like 2 weeks later. Stuff's just shorting out inside the cabinet. So then they decide this is an issue. We got vats of cheese that are basically seizing up and costing us a lot of money. So I do what I normally did, leverage people who knew, because I didn't know shit. I called Eaton and said, hey, you gotta come help me. I need your help on this one. So they come down to DFA. Oh, that's our transformer. Yeah, that's at Arden Mills, Lake City. Keep flipping. Brandon will yell at you when to stop, once you get DFA roof picture. So we come down to the facility and they decide we need to upgrade this system because they keep tripping offline. And this is where I meet Robert Summers. So Robert was an engineer working for DFA, and he got sent up from Missouri to help get this figured out of how we're going to get their switchgear back on. And if you see, so this is on the roof. It's 15 kV overhead coming onto the roof, and they got this structure built over the top of the roof going into a connection cabinet on the end, and then there's 2 feeds going across the roof. So I met Robert there. Robert's up on the roof, and he's pointing and waving his arms around. We want to do this, we want to do this. And I said, put your fucking hands in your pockets. You're going to kill yourself. Like, that's energized 15 kV. To this day, Robert still remembers that. He's like, yeah, you saved my life one time. So right there, I mean, there's a big sign, danger high voltage. Robert's up there like this. Jeez. So we put together a design for this project to put some new pad mount switchgear out at the road, refeed the buildings, and rebus the structures inside. Because of our relationship with these guys, they helped us design the gear. We did the electrical side, but now comes the hard part. We'd never terminated, we'd never done duct bank before, never designed a foundation before, never terminated 15 kV before, but Mike, we can do this, right? So we go on YouTube, teach ourselves how to do terminations, bring the 3M guy down here, and he runs through and make sure we're doing them right. And we put together a project to put this in. It was probably one of the bigger projects we had done, and it had to be coordinated for outages because the plant runs 24 hours a day, and we had all this stuff set up and what we were doing for pre-work. And at the end of the day, we pulled off the job, put in a new 15 kV service. It's still there for him today. New duct bank to the building, switched them all over, and that started a really good relationship with Robert and DFA. So because of that, then Robert led us on to, which would now be Dairy Concepts, DCI, and we do work for them in Bruce, and we do work for them in Dalbo. And Robert also led us to Eddie Packing. And we now got a relationship with corporate engineers because of that. So we got that project done, and that one then led to this Henkel account. Spelled that wrong. So Henkel had a plant in Cannon Falls, which we still work at today. They got a plant in Prescott, Wisconsin, and Prescott, Wisconsin was doing an addition in about that 2010-2011 timeframe, and they needed a 15 kV service as part of that project. So because we had just done one over here, they almost needed the exact same thing. They had an existing 15 kV service. They were installing an addition to a building, and they needed a new service. Same, almost exact design, same equipment, bought it from the same people. That led us to a project in Prescott. And because of this 15 kV knowledge, we were the only contractor bid on it that had done 15 kV work. Everybody else was going to have to sub that or told them they couldn't bid it. But we bid it, and that's why we got the job, was because of this knowledge right here. So we also leveraged that 15 kV knowledge to get work. Let's see, how do we draw that one? USG. So how USG started, we were working at Hearth & Home in Lake City. Hearth & Home's master had quit, and they hired USG's master to go to Hearth & Home, Dave Holm. So I knew USG, hey, they're without a master. They're going to be in need. So I just stop on the door, knock on the door, and for whatever reason, the receptionist, where's Brian, what's her name? Brian Stenger? Receptionist, USG. Wisconsin name. And she still works there. She let me in the door, and Mike Hill, the plant manager, was there, and go in to talk to him. And to this day, he still goes, he said, I just remember when you were just this kid, stop in to tell me about how you were going to work for us. And what I would do then is I'd be like, well, yeah, we work for, Hearth & Home and Henkel and Arden Mills, and list off these companies, and you'd kind of get the, well, if they can work for them, they can probably work for us, right? It worked. So he let us in to do a project for them, and it was a feeder to the maintenance shop was the first project. Nothing big. You could tell it was kind of a get your feet wet project. So we did a feeder to the maintenance shop, and they gave us a few other little lighting projects. And then one night they had a fault on their 4160 system, and their transformer was basically failing. So he said, oh, do you do 15 kV work? I'm like, absolutely. You bet we do. Barely. I mean, we're just getting started in that. So we do, how'd that one start? I remember that job. I think we put a temporary transformer in for them. So their transformer was failing. They needed a new transformer. I went back to my relationship with Eaton, said, where can I get a 5 MVA 12470 to 4160 transformer? They introduced me to a company out in South Dakota. We got them a rental transformer, brought that transformer in, and we had done terminations now, but only the live front terms, so we were feeling pretty good. And we opened that transformer up, and it's got these big, dumb T-body looking. They're called T-bodies. We didn't know what they were, and Brandon and I are like, what in the heck are these things, So we got a transformer we got to change out, and on the existing one, we were able to just reuse the old terminations, but on our new transformer that we ordered for them, it had T-bodies on it. So like usual, we go to Google. I don't know, it was probably like Yahoo at that time, no Google. Ask Jeeves, maybe. So we're looking up and we're trying to figure out how to put these T-bodies together. And, well, apparently you needed this special tool to be able to put them together, which we didn't have. Didn't know where to order it. So we did what we normally would, is we figured it out. We went and cut off another couple of our Allen wrenches and welded them together and ground them off, and we made our T-body termination tool. We didn't know if it was going to work, but, so we go do that outage, and we put together our first T-bodies, and it worked, it energized, it's still on today, so good job, us. So So at this time on this service was where we kind of got tied to our riser poles too. So part of this project was we had to install a new pole and split their 4160 and 15 kV services. Now we had never built a pole before, but of course we said, yep, we can do that. And we ordered the parts, and I remember going and looking at different sites to try and figure out how they space things and how far apart it was and what parts it took. And at this point we had met Chris Vastnet with Border States, and Border has a utility division. So we were trying to work with the utility division to get us the right parts, and we figured out how to do it. I think we actually set it. We didn't own a digger derricks truck at the time, and we only had one bucket truck. So we set the pole with a crane and then built everything on the pole out of our boom lifts and switched the whole service over, and that was our very first riser pole that we ever built, was for USG. And again, that relationship still then leveraged from here, and it also came basically because we had done that 15 kV. kV work is really what got us started on that side.
About 25 below that.
25?
It was a cold.
That was. We've done a lot of those, cold as all get out. That was probably one of our first tents. We ever bought another tent and a NIPCO. And lost my thought here. Gotta go back to my picture. Okay, there we go, IMR. So for us, this 15 kV work was something that has led us to a ton of relationships and a ton of projects. We would have never got that project had we not went out on a whim and said we could do it. We probably wouldn't have done as much work here. This Mendota project was all 35 kV work, which we had never done before we got into the renewables side, which starts here pretty soon. Another big one for us that started was fiber optics. So we were working at Land O'Lakes doing outage work and project work, and we were subbing fiber optic work to a company, and it was one of them where they'd never show up when you needed them, they'd never get the stuff done when we needed them to, and we're like, this can't be that hard, we gotta be able to do it. So we had Warner Electric come out and show us how to do it, and I think after we got done with that first day, we were like, are you kidding me? That's it? This is easy. So we bought the tools to do it, and we did a bunch of fiber at Interstate Mills as part of that project, and then we did it at Crystal Valley Co-op and Hope, and I mean, we went on to buy a lot of fiber optic equipment, and we do fiber for a ton of people now, and all based on that, well, this looks easy, we can do that attitude, right? That's all it took. So our fiber work has gotten us a lot of places. Now, somewhere right in here, we started, because here's one. So IMR, I had heard about a project at the Randolph Township meeting called RTS. So RTS was a shingle extraction plant that was going to get built in Randolph, but they didn't build in Randolph. They ended up going to Shakopee, and I found a guy's name. I don't remember how I found it. There's a guy by the name of Ron Harnack, and I got his contact information, and I called him and went and met with him, and it was a shingle extraction plant. And we'd never done an extraction facility before, but I'm like, oh, we can figure it out. It can't be that hard, right? It was a big grinder, and then they brought the ground shingles into a building, and they put them through an extraction bed of toluene, which strips the oil out of the toluene, or strips the oil out of the shingle, and then they basically were going to try and sell that back to the asphalt plants and then separate the solids. And when we were working at RTS, there's a guy that came to work for us by the name of Bill Richmond. Hired him because we were looking for another project manager. And Bill knew he had a life in renewables. So he had worked for Mortensen for a while doing solar work. And he was talking about solar, and I was like, yeah, we don't mess around with that stuff. We just work on industrial plants, and we're not going to do that work. And he kept talking about it like it was this great thing. And pretty soon he introduced us to a company called IPS. I'm going to run on a whiteboard, Brandon. And we'll go this way. IPS. So IPS had a project. This is when the community solar gardens kind of started. And they had a project in Red Wing. And the reason they had contacted us is because they needed 15 kV work done. And they must have known Bill. Bill was working for us. Said, oh, you guys do industrial work. Do you do that? And he said, absolutely. We love doing that work, right? So we go meet them in Red Wing, and they had no idea what they were doing. I think it was me and Brandon that went to meet them. And I mean, they had the plans upside down, basically, is what they knew. It was a mess.
They put rooftop, it's all around rooftop.
Right. All they had done before was put solar on roofs, and now they're trying to build 40 acres in a field. You know, so they were in the same boat, kind of had that we can do it attitude. So they wanted us just to do the medium voltage work. Said we need these poles built, we need underground and pads, and we're like, yeah, well, absolutely, we do that all day long. We can, no problem. And then as we were getting to know them and working with them, they're like, well, what else do you guys want to do? I'm like, well, what else do you want us to do? And it turned out on that project, so that was Red Wing, and we said, okay, we'll do the 15 kV poles, we'll do your AC underground, and then they were going to have somebody else do the rest of it. So they had 3 projects. They had Red Wing, we had Eichton, and we had Lind. So in the first 2 projects, Red Wing and Eichton. Now Eichton was the first project we had ever done 35 kV on. Red Wing was 15 kV, so no problem. So 35 was a little, you know, same difference, a little bit thicker cable, but we had never done it before, but said, yeah, no problem, we can do it. So these riser poles that we built here basically is what we needed to build here. And because we had already done 1, we figured we could do another 5, and then we did another 4, and then another 4. But it was the relationship that we built with them and saying, yep, we can do that. And then it was, geez, you guys are really good at that. What else can you do? So then we took on the AC scope and did all the AC underground on both of these 2 projects. And on this project, we had already started on those, and they're like, oh, you guys are really good. What else do you want to do? And we said, well, we'll do the DC work now, because I mean, we had never done DC work, but it looked pretty simple. So we picked up doing DC work on Lind. Now, somewhere right in here, we got a call from guy by the name of Lauren Magnus. Lauren Magnus worked for Blattner. I have no idea to this day how he got my phone number, how he called me on my cell phone, and they'd left a message, and anybody who knows Lauren Piper can probably speak to this. He's kind of like, yeah, you know, this is Lauren Magnus from Blattner, and so I got a couple little projects I'd like you guys to look at, and, you know, just kind of sounded interesting. I'm like, Blattner? I've heard of them before, you know. I mean, they're only like the largest solar EPC in the United States. One of. I'm like, oh, I'll give the guy a call back. So we call him and go, he says, I'd like to meet you tomorrow in Hastings. It's okay, you know, send me the address, and talked for a little bit. He was asking a number of people, and of course I maybe said we had more people than we did, just hoping to try and let us do some work for him. And I go meet him in Hastings at this solar field, and I drive out there, and it was like an 8 megawatt field, and we'd only been involved on 5 and 4 megawatt ones, so it looked pretty big, and it was just a mess. I mean, there's stuff laying all over, they don't have anything done, and he's talking, oh yeah, this project is supposed to be done in 3 months, and I mean, I don't know that much about solar at that time, but I was like, yeah, right, 3 months, my ass. So the conversation goes, well, you know, this is what we'd like to do, we'd like to set up some rate structures with you guys, and you know, how many people can you get me? And he's asking for 50 people. And at the time, we maybe had 40 total in the entire company, right? Maybe 50, 2017, 16. It's 2016. And it was a shake of hands, let's get to work. You know, send me as many guys as you can send me on Monday. So we sent him 3 people. And he's like, well, yeah, when's the rest of them coming, you know? So that relationship there led to, okay, you're going to do this site, but then he calls and he's like, ah, we need somebody to do this, the medium voltage, these poles. I can't remember, you remember what they were calling them at that time? They had some stupid name for it, Brandon. Anyway, POI, need somebody to do the POI. And so we get involved in these conference calls, and it's a bunch of Italians on this conference call, and nothing gets done for about 45 minutes. They're just talking and bickering back and forth, and then they want to start talking about these poles they need, and they had 17 sites, 19 sites, spread across the state. And come to find out, they hadn't even ordered any of the material for this yet, and what they did order was wrong and wasn't going to work. So being that we had already done some poles here, and here we were the experts, right? And compared to them, we really were. So we ended up getting hired to build all their pole farms across all of these sites. So Brandon and Peter kind of bebopped around the state, putting in poles all over for them and terminating cables, and you know, that relationship just kind of led to, well, what else can you do? Well, we do fiber optics too. So that led us to doing all the fiber terms for them on all their sites, and then we got involved in a few more sites for them and helped do underground work and AC and DC work, and you know, that relationship with Blattner has grown into a lot of things and taught us a lot of stuff, and we went on to build Scandia with them, and we helped them. I mean, for the last 3 years, really, we've been helping them in the state of Minnesota doing projects all over the place. So our IPS relationship, that one went on the next year to, I'm on a whiteboard, I'm gonna stop writing. Went on to Waterville and Dundas. So we did another 2 projects for them in Waterville and Dundas, and this time it was with a different developer that was called Nautilus. And we did those 2 projects, they went really well, and Nautilus was like, man, you guys are really good. What do we even have these guys involved for? Because they don't even really do anything. I'm like, we were thinking the same thing. So in the solar world, it's called EPC, so engineer, procure, and construct, right? And we were really just the C, right? We were the construction. We procured some of the equipment, but mainly we just did the construction. So Nautilus came to us and said, we'd like you to do this project in Winstead. And we said, yeah, you know, that sounds great. So, but we need you to be the EPC. Okay, we can do that, right? Never done it before, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. So now we had the civil in our scope, the mechanical in our scope, all the procurement was in our scope. And so we, you know, had some subs that helped us, but started buying more equipment and hired more people. And we're able to do our first EPC project for Nautilus was the Winstead project. Now, they really liked how we did for them in Winstead, and that's led to all the work that we've got this year for Walcott, Warsaw, Helen, and Northfield, and we've built off those. Now we got another 10 projects for them this year. So it all ties back to those relationships that we build with our customers and our people, and then it just keeps cascading down, you know. And the more things that we can say yes to, and the more we can open our minds to attack projects, and no, it's pretty cool. So then we get into kind of the fun part of people too, of how we, and I've been missing customers, like Federal Mogul in Lake City was another one where we've always worked in Lake City. We just had never been in this plant. It always bugged me. I'm like, man, I drive by this plant every day. Why can't I be in there? So I thought, geez, who do I know at this plant? And my uncle had a friend, Ron Gabrielson, who worked there. So I talked to Ron, and he's like, here's the guy you got to talk to. The guy's name is Ron Kohler. So I go to the front desk at Federal Mogul, and I knock on the door and ask for Ron. And anybody who knows Ron Kohler, I mean, the guy's like 7'5", he looks like the Hulk. And again, this was 2008, so I'm 21, you know, looked maybe like Isaiah back in the day. There's a picture in here for you coming up, Isaiah, it's a good one. So I come through the door, and this guy, he has to duck to get through a 7-0 door, right? He ducks and comes in, I'm like, holy shit. So I talk to him, and he goes, you know, we BS a little bit, and he's, all right, well, I'll keep your name and number. And it was a week later, we're working in Goodhue, and we're doing a project at the seed building, the first seed building they put up. And we were doing that project, and I get a call from Ron saying, hey, we got a machine for you guys to hook up, I need you tomorrow. And it's like Friday at 5, and I'm like, yeah, they're testing us. So I went down there myself, hooked this machine up, and we've been there ever since, right? So it just, and then we met Dave Hansen, and we've met all these other people there, and we just keep building off of those relationships. But it was kind of their test of, oh, we'll throw in one here, we'll see if they actually do it or not. And we did it, and we built one project, and I think, Derek, that was maybe one of the first sites you worked on, Federal Mogul Lake City. Did a little machine line right by maintenance.
Carton Homes and Brandon Vic.
What, Vic? It was about the same time frame, but. So all these little projects, I mean, it's one conversation with somebody, it's one go out on a whim and say, yep, we can do something that has turned into everything that we have, you know, kind of built today. So, how much time we got left, Eddie? I'm good? Okay.
You don't lost us yet.
We'll back up one more. Land O'Lakes. So Richard, everybody knows Richard. Yes, no? Richard, where are you? Is he hiding?
Silverback.
Richard. So when Land O'Lakes first started, we didn't have a lot of people then. In Land O'Lakes, there was Terry Eltoff was the guy's name there, and we had never really done any shutdown type work, but Terry was always one to just throw us work as well, because we had performed well on a small project for him, and then he's like, all right, I'm going to give you a little bit bigger one, and pretty soon we're planning 2-3 week outages there where we worked all hours of the day and night to get stuff done, and and build that relationship. So Richard came into the picture, right in here. One of Richard's first projects, we were putting a man lift in, man lift. And Richard came in with a nice big beard and carrying a hammer. That picture's up there. Can you find that picture? Richard always used to have a hammer in his tool pouch because he had been working on residential work and he needed a hammer. Well, we didn't do a lot of residential. There's Richard. Anybody who didn't, right there. His hammer is in his tool pouch. Putting a CT cabinet on. Y'all need a hammer to put a CT cabinet in, right? So Richard always had a can-do attitude. That's why he fit right in, because there was nothing he wouldn't do or try and do. And he's working with Brandon on this man lift. And if anybody's been in Land O'Lakes, it's a 90-foot building, 110-foot building, switchback stairs, and it's a spray dryer. So it is hotter than all get out. We're doing this in the dead of summer. You had to have your smock on and your beard nets and hair nets. And they're doing this man lift, and they're up top, and Richard would be like, Brandon would send him down to the man to get something. And, you know, Richard would get back up to the top of that, Brandon would be like, yeah, I also need this. And Richard would go back down the stairs, and he'd come back up, and that must have happened 5 times, and then Richard pretty soon started asking, okay, do you need anything else? Is there anything else you're going to need? And Richard came back the next week, his beard was gone. Too hot, no beard. So yeah, Land O'Lakes is another customer we have built off of that relationship, and that's probably somewhat turned into Carrie in Rochester, and the relationship with Carrie was because of the knowledge that we had in spray dryers at Land O'Lakes, right? We learned how spray dryers worked and how that whole process worked, and that would bring us into Carrie when they were doing, because they have spray dryers.
Yeah, I did the Isaiah story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isaiah passed his journeyman's test, by the way, last week. Great job, Isaiah. Okay. So this is Isaiah, I don't know, maybe 2010, 11? How old would have you been then? Maybe, no, probably 13. So remember so Isaiah grew up not too far down the street here, and his dad, Robert Hinch, was a customer of ours. And Robert called Jurgen, or me, I don't remember, to see if we could put his son to work. So Isaiah started working for us, washing vans, mowing lawn, doing whatever, kind of how I started. I mean, I used to have to wash vans every single weekend. That was like the bane of my existence. I imagine it being like feeding calves for a farm kid, but wash vans, that's what I did. Okay, so back to Isaiah. So Isaiah started here washing vans, mowing lawns, and Isaiah went to Kemp's. I think that was your first time to Rochester.
Yeah.
Like ever in his life. We went to Rochester and Elgin, and we might as well been in like Liberia or something, because he was lost. So Isaiah would come with, and we'd let him work on the weekends a little bit, and he would come with, and he ended up driving me a lot. So I'd find out I was traveling all over the place, and I couldn't get anything done, and I didn't have a lot of people to help do what needed to be done, so Isaiah would be my driver. Now, we got a lot of interesting stories about road trips. I don't know how many of them I can tell, but Isaiah and I have drove a lot of places. So we got asked to go up, ADM had a leg explosion in Rogers, North Dakota. And again, it was because of this relationship that I knew, I think it would have been Mike Stinson and Mark Adine and Ryan Potts. They sent us to Rogers, North Dakota. And this picture's in there too, right? Yeah, that's him. That's Isaiah. He's holding, I don't know, some wire or something. And you're 16, 17? What do you think? So he looks about 13 when he's there. And we get to the facility and we walk into the office and, you know, talking to Tim Tigas, another guy I met at ADM. So Tim Tigas was a regional manager, and he's the one who had us come up there, and we, you know, Isaiah comes in behind me, you know, and the hard hats looks probably like a sombrero on top of him.
I zoomed in.
You zoomed in, you can see him. So I introduced him, yeah, this is Isaiah. Or I don't even know if he said, he goes, and who's this? He said, what'd you bring this guy with, just a pull wire? Shit, he looks like pure power. So if anybody knows the name PP or Pure Power, that's where it comes from. It was because of his you know, he just looked like he had just hit the weight room. So that's the Pure Power story. So Isaiah's story is kind of cool though, right? He started out here washing vans, mowing lawn, and worked in the shop, and probably got the short end of the stick 9 times out of 20, not out of 10. It wasn't that bad. But he's been around it a long time. He knows how we do things. He's been involved in a lot of stuff. And what are you, 3 years out of high school? 5. Well, it's not as good a story then. It's still pretty cool. So five years out of high school, and he's got his journeyman's license, right? So that's a pretty cool story to tell, that we can tell other kids that we're trying to get into the trade. At what industry can you be 5 years out of school and be licensed and, being a licensed electrician working, right? Not that he doesn't have a ton to learn, just like the rest of us, but it was that path and being around everybody that helped mentor him and teach him that, it's a cool story. So everybody else in this chain, let's go back to Ardent. So Ardent, we've grown that relationship over the years. That went to, now we're out in Colorado working for them. We're in Hastings working for them. We bid jobs in Wichita, Kansas for them. Oh, I spelled that bad. We're going out to Massachusetts for them. We are going to California for them, right? And all of these locations and all of this work all stems off of one customer. And when we look at kind of the map of all of our work and all of our people, everybody in this room can put their name onto one of these projects or onto one of these customers or one of these people, right? And it all starts off of, a lot of it, off of Ardent and Lake City is where we built a lot of this knowledge, or the DFAs or the Land O'Lakes or Egg Partners or Henkel or Hearth and Home. That's led us to almost every project that we've ever done is based on somebody we met along the way. And that's how everybody here comes into this picture, right? You all kind of can associate your name somewhere on that screen. Like Jake Couch, I don't know where he went. Jake came when we were working at RTS. This is when he first started working for us. Matt Harris, RTS, right? That was your first project. Then RTS went to Spectro. And then that was a fun place. And then Spectro onto the next, right? It's kind of it's a cool story. So the whole intent of this was, like I said, many of you didn't know this backstory, right? There's only probably 5-10 people in the room that have been a part of this whole story as we went. So for us to know that it's...
Do the new hires this year. Let's have them stand up. Anybody who's new
Yeah,
this year.
this will be fun. New hires just this year. Stand up. This year. Keep standing, keep standing. All right, how about in the last 2 years? Okay, last 3 years. Who's still sitting, right? So that's a lot of people. And I mean, the cool thing to me, this whole thing and the reason why we do this is all about people, right? It's about providing good opportunities for people and their families, and then our people take care of our customers and help provide the opportunity at the customer end for them to run their facilities, build their plants, whatever it is. So so now that not everybody knows the story, but we got a little bit more background on kind of where we've been and how we do what we do and why we do what we do, and understanding each other's story makes a big difference in knowing how we're going to respond or react to things.
We have everybody stand that hasn't been here 19.
So Shane will be the only one sitting, right? So for us to know for the next 10, right? So this is kind of the backstory of the last 10 years. And this week we're going to be kind of focusing on tools and skills to get us through the next 10. And when we look at how far we've come in the last 10 years, we've come a long way, right? From having one rope and we didn't own a cordless tool, right? We did not have cordless tool. That's a cordless hammer drill. We had one, and that thing was sacred, and you had to like beg to get it out of somebody's van, So it's funny to see where we were, where we are now, and if we can take all of that knowledge and all those experiences and all the stuff we're going to learn this week to help leverage that to where we go in the next 10, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to go far, and we're going to go together. Yeah.
Yeah, whenever you're going to give a 10-minute break, or we'll have them come back in 10 minutes.
Okay, 10-minute break. We'll come back in 10. Looking forward to a great week.
Great job.